Hey, what's up, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. So finally, we are into earnings season. This week will be the unofficial kickoff to the quarterly reporting period with the banks due to get things going this coming Friday. It will be a little bit slower until Thursday. Thursday being a busier morning and afternoon of earnings, but also Thursday's when the CPI comes out. So really, like this coming week will be back end loaded in terms of action. So before the open, actually, all day Monday there's nothing scheduled. Before the open on Tuesday, no real major names scheduled. After the close on Tuesday, Pepsi about 525 is what's priced in. I mean, this was at its 52-week high about a little over a month ago, but just steadily sliding into earnings. Staples have been very mixed performers on earnings recently, and I don't trade or really even follow Pepsi close enough to know what to do with it. Um, I mean, technically, it doesn't look very good, and I mean, the setup doesn't seem that interesting, so I think I'm just going to leave it alone. Wednesday before the open, nothing's scheduled, and after the close on Wednesday, there's not really any major name. So Thursday before the open. So this is going to be where earnings pick up, but it's also Thursday before the open is where the CPI data is coming out, and the CPI is going to have a major impact, both on like the overall market and also kind of the performance of the companies reporting that morning. Because if the entire market is up a bunch or down a bunch, I mean, it's definitely going to impact the action on the companies reporting. So it'll be Thursday will be an interesting day. Delta is scheduled Thursday morning, pricing at about 225. So it's the first of the airlines to report, and it could be a mover. Um, it's just I haven't been trading this group much, and a little bit off the lows. It does seem like it's kind of set up for movement, but 225 doesn't seem like the options are that cheap. Um, but maybe it could look at like a sympathy play on AAL or UAL because those tend to move together. Um, Taiwan Semi, huge report. It's just coming off the monthly sales, which knocked it lower this morning, but they actually weren't that bad. Um, so it does to me seem like well, also you had AMD this morning too, which warned. So or that it came out after the close yesterday, but it's weighing on the stock today. So it does seem to me like the expectations are kind of getting lower as the stock slides again. But my rule last quarter was to actually avoid taking options on semis into earnings. I don't know if you've listened to these videos, but that was one of my rules from last quarter. Just because I was noticing that the semis just weren't moving enough to reward option buyers. So um, I think that's going to be my plan again this quarter until I see a reason to change it. So if I start to see volatility really expand on these chip stocks, then maybe I'll play earnings. But until then, I think it's just going to be an avoid. Um, Walgreens, so about 225 is what's priced in. I mean, you can see year to date, this has just been in a really steady downtrend. Um, I guess I don't typically expect earnings to break trends. I mean, that's just kind of like one of my things around earnings, right? Like stocks that are in trends tend to stay in trends. So I don't know if I'm gonna do anything with options on it for the report, but maybe post earnings, I'll keep an eye on it if there's like a decent setup. And then also Fastenal, priced in at about 3 points. Those are monthly options. Like the thing with Fastenal is that it doesn't move a lot, but it is kind of interesting to hear their commentary because it's usually one of the first industrials to report, and it could have some impact on other names in that group. So it's kind of like a nuts and bolts names, but it could have impact on some like other multinationals or construction or even like some like tool manufacturers. So it does it's not typically a huge mover, but it could impact other names in the industrials because it is one of the first to report. After the close on Thursday, there's nothing scheduled. Friday before the open, banks, and more banks. So you have Citi, which is pricing in 2.5. You have JP, which is pricing in about 6. You have Wells Fargo, which is pricing in about 2.5, and then you have Morgan Stanley, which is pricing in about 4.5. So Citi was the big surprise last quarter. Just a huge mover after unexpectedly good print. We'll see. We'll have to see if it's like the largest mover again this time. I mean, I will say the setups do seem kind of similar. The biggest differences are that Citi and JP Morgan are at or below their July low, whereas Wells Fargo and Morgan Stanley aren't. So you can see that Wells Fargo and Morgan Stanley are outperforming a bit, whereas Citi and JP Morgan are a little bit worse. Um, I think sometimes I struggle to pick a bank to go after, so I sometimes prefer to like play like XLF, right, as like a like a sector play, or even like Bank of America or Goldman Sachs could be interesting sympathy plays because they don't report next week, and with like four banks all reporting Friday morning, you figure that Bank of America and Goldman Sachs are going to be moving, so could be decent sympathy play candidates. And then lastly, so UNH, 2150 is what's priced in. I mean, it's a big health insurance name, big healthcare name in general. I mean, it's been such a solid group, and UNH is typically very consistent on earnings. Last quarter was strong. It seemed like the stock was set up to rally into earnings, but just in the last 2 days turned lower pretty quick. I guess it still wouldn't surprise me if this caught a bit ahead of the report, if the overall market stabilizes and or rebounds. But we're really gonna need to see where it is on Thursday to see if there's still a trade left. But I will say too, though, that I mean it is at the bottom, kind of like the bottom of like a very long uptrend. So if they do surprise on the downside, there could be a pretty material break lower. But I mean they have been a consistent performer, both like stock movement wise, but also like numbers wise. Um, so uh, so so we'll see. I mean, the thing too right now is that I mean AMD wasn't scheduled with when they released guidance. So I mean some of like the biggest impact catalysts are coming from names that weren't scheduled. So I mean with companies wrapping their books for the quarter, I guess it also wouldn't surprise me to see some more unscheduled guides this coming week. So we have that to potentially watch for as well. All right, so we'll see. It should be a busy week. But if you like this video and you're looking for more information on trading events or earnings with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Have a great weekend, stay well, and I'll talk to you on Monday.